Hi everyone, I'm Shannon from Shannon's Kitchen Staples. This post I'm really focusing on nice summer salads, so I'm making one of my very favorites today first, and that is tomato and feta salad. I've already chopped up most of my tomatoes, as you can see, and so a really good trick is if you have company coming over later and you don't want to be cooking a lot when company comes, is to prep everything but not mix it up, especially with like salad greens, because then they tend to get all wilty. So what I've done is that I mixed my dressing on the bottom, and it's just a really simple mix of white wine vinegar, but you could also use red wine or balsamic if you prefer. It's got olive oil, some salt and pepper, and then fresh herbs, which really make a nice difference. So I've got some basil and some parsley, and then a tiny bit, like a really small clove of garlic that I grated into it just to give it a little bit of a zip, but it's not overwhelming. And the grating does that really well as opposed to mincing. I hate getting bites of garlic, but I like the flavor of it. So that's what I've done. And then I've chopped up all my tomatoes and just put it on top. I'm gonna finish chopping my tomatoes for you, and I like them quartered because I like things in bite-sized pieces as opposed to like a huge chunk. If it's a salad, like you just want it to be easy. You don't want guests to be like gnawing on a whole half of a tomato. So I've got my tomatoes here. I really sharpen my knife almost every time before I use it, and that's just so that things are easy. So I just quarter it, easy cross, throw it in. And then what I'm gonna do after I finish chopping the tomatoes is I'm going to chop my feta. I don't like buying crumbled feta because it tends to be really dry and not very flavorful. So I buy my feta like this. I love feta, so I go through about a little block like this a week, which is a lot, but I love it on everything. And there's a really good trick that you can do, which is to put it in the freezer before you intend to chop it, so it comes out more solid and doesn't crumble up. For this salad, I think it's nice to see blocks of everything. If you want to crumble it, you feel free to do that. It's no shame to the salad at all, but I like it crumbled. So, or I'm sorry, I like it cubed. So what I do is that I leave it in this block like this, and I'm gonna take it and slice it in half. And by putting it in the freezer first, it's gonna give it a little bit of a resistance so it's not falling apart on you, which is good because then you get nice big cubes. So then I'll just go through and score it, which is pretty simple. You can see a few pieces come off, but it's not such a huge deal. And so I just try to make it as even as I can, and then I'll go through and I'll chop in squares and then just wipe off my knife as I go. And it leaves you with a little bit bigger pieces, which is nice. And so when you get bites of the salad, you really can taste things and it's not just kind of a mess, and it's like pretty red and white salad, and then the nice herbs, put a bright green flavor in there. So I'm just gonna put these in here really simply. Use your knife carefully to kind of mop up what's left. And then this is really important when you're doing this. If you want the cubes like I like, to just stir it really gently, almost like if you were folding a cake batter. You just really want to coat the onion and the tomato with the herbs and the vinegar. Okay. I did this in a glass bowl so you can see it, but if I was going to serve this to guests, like I would totally wipe around the edge of this, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to kind of get in there and break it up a little bit more. So, a really pretty, nice, vibrant color. Everything's coated. And then you can just take a piece of paper towel or napkin, wipe this around the edge. If you want to put this directly on the table, you can put it in a smaller bowl or a decorative bowl if you have one. And then I always like to put something on top that just kind of makes it like a nice little garnish, and people can tell that that's one of the things that's in there. So there's a little bit of basil. It's really fresh and delicious. So nice with grilled fish or chicken or skewers, whatever you want. If you are a vegetarian though, you could totally get rid of the cheese if you don't like any cheese. And a really good substitute also, if you're trying to make this more substantial, is to add in a few more vegetables, whichever you like, and about a half cup of cooked quinoa. Really, really delicious. I also sometimes use bulgur, like whatever I have, I just use it up. But this is just such a nice summer, fresh flavor. Get a glass of white wine, sit outside, and enjoy. Thanks.